This chart shows how professional philosophers view human agency. 59% identify as compatibilists, while the rest are divided among libertarians, determinists, and those with no stated opinion. Compatibilism relies on a specific compromise. It accepts that we live in a strictly determined universe, governed by the laws of physics, but insists that within those parameters, humans still possess free will. The problem is the human brain itself. Biologically speaking, the brain is a meat computer, a physical system composed of atoms and chemical gradients, all bound by deterministic laws. If every particle in this biological system obeys the laws of physics, there is no mechanical gap where an organism could step outside the causal chain to freely choose its next action. The compatibilist answer to this paradox doesn't rely on discovering new physics. Instead, it uses semantic redefinition and a specific interpretation of biological emergence. The evidence suggests our feeling of agency is a biological illusion. To see past it, we must strip away the philosophical wordplay and look directly at the neuroscientific data. First, we need to define our terms. The version of free will most people believe they possess is called libertarian free will. Imagine the tape of life. A physical causal chain plays forward, arriving at a choice between steak or salmon. Rewind the tape, returning every atom to its exact original position. Libertarian free will dictates you could have chosen differently. Compatibilists, such as Michael Shermer, reject this standard as the basis for free will. Instead, they lower the requirements, redefining free will as the capacity to form intentions, consider possibilities, and take action. This model is tautological. Because people feel like they are weighing alternatives and acting upon them, compatibilists assert they have free will. It is a claim that cannot be scientifically tested. Experiencing the sensation of making a choice is not the same as being physically exempt from the causal chain. Redefining the words to fit the feeling is a semantic trick. There is one set of physical laws known to be unpredictable and non-deterministic: quantum mechanics. Theoretically, a random quantum event occurring inside a neuron could alter a neural pathway, changing the final outcome. However, biologists and physicists agree that these microscale effects do not apply to the macroscale of human behavior. The brain operates under the predictable rules of classical mechanics. Even if quantum events influenced the brain, the logic fails. Random probability is not the same as conscious intention. We cannot consciously direct the movement of an electron. Relying on subatomic randomness to rescue human agency fails to provide a mechanism for self-determined control. When physics and semantics fail, compatibilists often retreat to their primary defense: emergent properties. The argument posits that while a single neuron strictly obeys physics and lacks agency, self-determinism materializes when billions of neurons interact. This is smuggled-in dualism. It requires us to explain how physical objects cooperate to exempt themselves from the laws of physics. Neurobiologist Robert Sapolsky notes that neurons do not become causeless causes merely by interacting with their neighbors. Compatibilists often point to economic inflation as a valid emergent property not found in foundational physics. Monetary inflation is an emergent network property, but it remains a deterministic phenomenon, entirely compatible with underlying naturalism. Philosophers like Epicurus understood the limits of this logic thousands of years ago. Emergence does not provide a mechanism that bypasses foundational physical forces. Claiming a network generates a completely independent will is biologically incoherent. An emergent property cannot break the causal chain of its constituent parts. We can move past philosophical debate because the determinist position is testable. If our behavior is strictly physical, we should be able to physically manipulate the feeling of agency. This timeline maps the neurological sequence of human decision-making, ending at T0, the exact moment of conscious choice. But brain imaging proves predictable binary choices occur physically well before the subject registers them, sometimes 10 seconds in advance. Physical alterations to the brain prove this further. Specific cortical lesions, such as those causing alien hand syndrome, remove the patient's illusion that they control their own limbs. Conversely, doctors using direct electrical stimulation on brain regions can artificially manufacture the intention to perform acts. Crucially, given enough electricity, these patients report that they genuinely willed those actions. The intention itself was entirely artificial, injected by an external current. We see the same pattern with Ouija boards, where humans execute subtle muscle movements while attributing their actions to outside forces. As neuroscientist Sam Harris points out, compatibilism ignores the very source of our belief in free will, the feeling of conscious agency. This feeling is the only reason there seems to be a problem worth talking about. The data tells a unified story. Conscious intentions form prior to awareness, can be physically added or removed. They are not free. What we call will and volition are post facto phenomena. They are the after effects of deterministic brain activity. Conscious choice is effectively a neuronal newsreel. Our conscious awareness is merely screening physical events slightly after they have occurred. The compatibilist definition of freedom amounts to a simple creed. A puppet is free as long as he loves his strings. Why do intellectuals cling to this model? Philosopher Daniel Dennett suggests that the fear driving the compatibilist argument is the assumption that society will collapse without the concept of moral responsibility. Under strict determinism, traditional moral responsibility is incoherent. However, humans remain causally responsible. If you commit an action, the physical system of your body performed it. We can invent new definitions to preserve a comforting feeling of self-control, but redescribing human behavior to make ourselves feel better does not change the underlying physics of determinism.